Okay, so again, it's Chavtes, 29a. It says Lamulai, that a father is obligated to circumcise his son. Minalan, how do we know that this obligation is only on the father and not on the mother? If we have a verse that supports this, it says Vayamal Avram that Avram circumcised his son. So that's step one. Father's obligated to circumcise his son. Let's say the father didn't circumcise his son. Then the court is obligated to come and circumcise this child. Now, it's not so clear if it means the actual court or if it means it's obligation on everyone in the community. Where do we see that? That it should be circumcised for you, every male. That means it's supposed to get done no matter what. Let's say the court doesn't come in to circumcise. Then he's obligated to circumcise himself. If any male that doesn't circumcise, the flesh of his foreskin will be cut off from the nation. Now, okay, so far we have that the father's obligated and other people are obligated to step in, and the child is obligated to do it for himself. But
Sipporah circumcised his son.
I'm sorry?
Sipporah, Moshe's wife.
It's a very good question. Yeah, that's a good question. It's an excellent question. Yeah. Moshe was there, yeah. Let's see, I don't know the answer. That she's not obligated. That as Hashem commanded him and not her. That's talking about back by Avram. We only find that this happened by Avram. How do you know that future generations the mother's not obligated? Tanad Be'er Bishmal started in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. It's an encourage. Anytime it uses the word tzav, which means command, the command could also mean encourage. And encourage means now and also for future generations. Zirus diksiv, this encouragement diksiv tzavas Yeshua v'chaskev amtzeu, command Yeshua and strengthen him. Two types of strength. Miyad al ders, but how do you see that this is for future generations? Diksiv menayim asher tziva Hashem v'halal dersechem. From the day that Hashem commanded from then and for future generations, we see that the word tzav doesn't just mean at that time, it also means for future generations. So when it says kasher tziva Yisrael Ekim, that Hashem commanded him, it means that it's him even for future generations, that only the father is obligated. Maybe the answer for Tzipayra Jimmy is that just to take away the punishment, to take away what was happening to Moshe, she stepped in to save it. I mean, she's obligated to save every person that she can, especially her husband. But the obligation probably wasn't on her. The obligation, that's why the obligation was on Moshe. That's why Moshe was getting swallowed by that snake or whatever. Okay, liftaisai, to redeem him. The father's obligated to redeem his son. Minalan, how do we know that the father's obligated and not the mother is obligated? We're talking about a firstborn son that's to be redeemed from the Kohen with 5 coins. The Ksiv says in the verse, Kol b'char b'necha tifta, all your firstborn sons you should redeem. If the father didn't redeem him, he has to redeem himself. The Ksiv Padei Sifta says that you should surely be redeemed. That means you have to make sure that it takes place. How do you know that the mother's not obligated to redeem her son? Okay, we're going to have this twice over here. Where does tifta? But it's written without a yud. It's written as tipada, which means like passive, that he should be redeemed. So, it goes like this. We put the two together. We say that it's supposed to be an action verb and it's supposed to be also a passive. Anyone that's obligated to redeem himself, which would be the action verb, which would be the passive verb. Any person that's supposed to be redeemed, that he himself is supposed to be redeemed, he's also obligated to redeem others. That would be the active. So we compare them. That if you're obligated to redeem yourself, then you're obligated to redeem others. If you're not obligated to redeem yourself, which we're talking now about the mother, is not obligated to redeem herself, is also not obligated to redeem her son. Well, there was an assumption there that the mother's not obligated to redeem herself, and therefore she doesn't have to redeem her son. But who told you that she doesn't have to redeem herself? How do you know that the mother is not supposed to get redeemed? It says the ksiv tifta tipada tifta. Now we take those two forms of this verb, and we do it the opposite way. We say kol shacher mitzvah leftaisei, and we put the action now on the others. If others don't need to redeem the mother, which means the mother's parents, the grandparents, the grandfather, kol shacher mitzvah leftaisei. If others are obligated to redeem, which would be the father, his parents are obligated to redeem. Mitzvah leftaisei, he's obligated to redeem himself. He's obligated to redeem himself. He's also obligated to redeem his son. But the mother, that the grandparents were not obligated to redeem the mother, is also not obligated to redeem herself. If she's not obligated to redeem herself, she's also not obligated to redeem her son. Well, how do you know the parents aren't obligated to redeem the daughter? Well, the grandparents in this case. How do you know the grandparents don't have to step in to redeem? It says you only have to redeem your sons, you don't have to redeem your daughters. So it works like this. They don't have to redeem their daughters. They don't have to redeem their daughters. That means the daughters don't need to redeem themselves. They don't need to redeem themselves. They also don't need to redeem their sons. So the obligation would only be on the father to redeem his son. Yeah. This is never going to be relevant unless there's a case of divorce and they're arguing over who's going to pay for the 5 coins. So the father's going to say, you pay for it. And the mother's going to say, no, you pay for it. And the Gemara is going to step in and say, well, the obligation's on the father. That's where you're going to see the relevance of this. Yeah. Otherwise, the obligation is always going to end up being on the son himself, and which mother's not going to help the son become redeemed. So the mother's going to, she does everything for him. She's going to give him in case of a conflict, you'll see this would come up. Tana Rabbana was taught in a brisa. Who liftes b'nai liftes? Let's say the fellow only has 5 coins to redeem either himself or his son. Who comes first? Who kaidem levnai? He comes first. He comes before his son. Rabbi Yehuda says no, his son comes first. Why? Because the original mitzvah of this person was on his father. But the original mitzvah of the son was on him. So he has the original mitzvah to do his son. The mitzvah is on the father to redeem the son. It's only if the father didn't do it, then. So if you look at the original mitzvah, the main mitzvah would be here on the father to redeem his son, right? If you look at how all of this started. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Hakol Maidim, everyone agrees. Rabbi Yirmiyah explains this very interesting. Says if there's really only 5 coins, that who kaidim levnai, that the father comes first and the father redeems himself from the kain, finds a kain, goes over to Mr. Cohen, and he gives him the 5 coins. And now Mr. Cohen says, what about your son? Well, he says, I don't have any more money. Okay. My time, what's the reason? Mitzvah de gufei adif. The mitzvah for himself always comes first. However, kipligi, there is a machlekes. Where is the machlekes over here between the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda? Let's say he has 5 coins that are the value of 5 coins in property, and he also has 5 actual coins in cash. So there's a machlekes now. You see, if there's a debt, the creditor is allowed to take the money away from the property, even if it was sold, property that was sold. Even if you sold it to someone, but the creditor can come and collect from them. So there's a lien on the property. Well, is there a lien on the property for the Kohen to come and collect the debt that the father owes him? He didn't redeem his son yet. Well, the only time you can come and collect from a lien on the property is if there's a document that says that there's a debt. Well, it goes like this. Rabbi Yehuda holds that since it's written in the Torah, so we have a document here. We have a document of the debt. Over here, it's like a promissory note. The Torah says that you owe the Kohen that money. You want to see the document? It's written in the scroll. It's written in the Torah. So Bahani Kamesh Parak Lebrei. He uses the first 5 to redeem his son. That's the cash. And then the kohen comes and says, "You owe me money. You don't have the money. Well, you had a property that was sold, and he can go and take that property because it's written in the Torah. That means he has a document that he can use to collect." Rabbanan Savri Milvid, the Rabbanan say that just because it's in the Torah doesn't mean that it's a document. A document is a different story. That's not just what's written in the rule book. It's written in the Torah. Hilkach mitzvah de gufei. Therefore, he just uses the money to redeem himself, not to redeem himself, his son. And then for the son, for some reason, he can't collect from the mishabadim.
This idea that we just read, that if someone has a chiyuv that doesn't have the cash and has assets, that he's required to go use the assets. Is that a clause that applies, or is it specific to this case? Do you know?
I think there's a rule for mitzvahs aseh that you're even supposed to like up to selling your shirt. Yeah, I think it would go under that the category. This is a very interesting discussion. If someone has the opportunity, only one opportunity, either to redeem his son or to go up to the temple, travel, the airfare. No, they didn't do airfare. There was whatever the cost of hiring the horse, or maybe the food for the way or something. Well, Tanur Rabbanu Tanur Bryce liftis b'nei regel. He can either redeem his son with the 5 coins, or he can go up to the temple. So it says, what should he do first? Which one comes first? He should redeem his son, and afterwards he should go. Here, actually, I'm explaining it like he only has 5 coins. That's not really what it's saying. It's saying which one comes first. Is he saying that he's not gonna be able to do, or is he saying which one should he take care of first? I'm not sure. It's unclear from just the actual reading. You see, in the last case, he's only going to be able to do one right now. Okay, maybe here also he's only going to be able to do one right now. And doesn't mean that it's both. The and could mean he has the money, which is 5 coins, which is good to redeem his son, and it's good, those same 5 coins could maybe get him to see.
Okay. On the note it says there's some commentaries say that they lack sufficient funds.
Okay, so yeah, usually if there's 2 ways of reading it, then there's usually the commentaries discuss it. Rabbi Yehuda says, I'm sorry, I skipped the first opinion. First he redeems his son, right, and then he goes up. And Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. First he goes up to the temple, and then he redeems his son. And Rabbi Yehuda explains, going to the temple is a passing mitzvah. If you don't do it right now, you're going to lose your chance. And redeeming the son, you could do later. That's not passing. The son will be here, hopefully, and he can do it later. We understand Rabbi Yehuda gave a good reason. What's the reason for the rabbis? The rabbi said you redeem the son first. Why should you do that? You might miss the opportunity. The Gemara explains the reason for the rabbis is kol b'char b'necha tifta. All your firstborn sons you should redeem. And then it says, and then later on it says, and don't see my face empty, which means you should go up to the temple. So, which means that you're supposed to redeem first before you go up to the temple. That's where they got that idea from, based on the wording of the pasuk, the order. How do you know if someone has 5 sons from 5 different wives, 5 firstborn sons? He calls them each my firstborn from different wives. So he has to redeem all 5. All your firstborn sons, you should redeem. The Gemara says Pshita. That's obvious because the firstborn is redeemed from the opening of the womb. That's what it's dependent on. Whoever opens the womb, and if each wife, he has 5 wives, each one, this was the opening of the womb. So then that's the one he has to redeem. The Gemara says, well, I could have thought that maybe I should do a comparison. When it comes to inheritance, which is the firstborn son that gets the double portion? That's only his firstborn son, not her firstborn son. So it has to be the father's firstborn son. Malal on Reisha means the first of his strength, which means his first seed. Afkan Reisha also over here, maybe it would mean the first of his strength, his first child, not her first child, but his first child. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that it doesn't have to do with him; it has to do with her. The father just has to step in and redeem all those wives' firstborn sons, all the sons of those firstborn sons of those wives. Alamdei Torah has to teach his son Torah. What we're doing here is we're going through the Brisa that said the obligations that the father has for his son, but the mother does not have. The father has to teach his son Torah. Minalan, how do we know the father has to teach his son Torah? The Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, you should teach them to your sons. Let's say the father didn't teach him. The son is obligated to teach himself. The Ksiv, it says, and you should study. Ihi minalan delay. How do you know the mother's not obligated? We can read this in 2 ways. If it's an appeal, it means to teach. Appeal is the intensive form. It has a chirik on the lamed and it has a dot in the mem. You should teach. However, if it's ulimadatem, that means and you should study and you should learn. The same word as teach and learn. That's the Hebrew. So, but it depends on the vowels. So, kol shemitzvah lilmaid, anyone that's obligated to learn, mitzvah lelamed is obligated to teach. Kol she'eina mitzvah lilmaid, eina mitzvah lelamed. Anyone that's not obligated to learn is not obligated to teach. Now, what we just said was that the mother is not obligated to study, to learn, so therefore she doesn't have to teach her son. But the father that is obligated to learn, he has to teach his son. How do you know the mother doesn't have to study? The Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, we do it the same way, just the opposite. Now it means you should study, you should teach, you should study. Anyone that's obligated to teach her, anyone that's obligated to teach, anyone that's obligated to be taught, that others are obligated to teach him. Mitzvah lamed is obligated to teach himself. If others aren't obligated to teach, here it's going to be her. Anyone that others aren't obligated to teach her, she doesn't have to teach herself. How do you know that others don't have to teach a woman Torah? It says you should teach them to your sons, but not your daughters. It says sons.
Doesn't mean children.
It could mean children also, but the Gemara here learns that it means sons and not the daughters. We'll see later on the next page the discussion about this. But what we just learned now is exactly what we did by the Pidin Aben. Said by the Pidin Aben. He said that if the parents aren't obligated to redeem the daughter, then the daughter is not obligated to redeem her own son, and she doesn't have to redeem herself. She doesn't have to redeem her own son. The same thing here. The parents aren't obligated to teach the daughter Torah. Now the daughter is not obligated to teach herself. The daughter is not obligated to teach herself. She doesn't also have to teach her son. So how does this child learn? The father has the obligation to teach him. It was taught in the Brisa. Let's say he only has money to either teach himself or to teach his son. That opportunity. So he should go to yeshiva. He leaves his son at home to work the field. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi Yehuda says that if the child is sharp and quick, witty, and he's able to retain his studies, the son comes first. Well, there's a big discussion in this. What exactly this means? Is it talking about the basics of studying Torah, or is it talking about the advanced studies of Torah? It may not be the basics. It may mean that the basics, the son would come first. It's just who would have to, if he's doing the advanced studies, that could be one of the interpretations. The the son. There was a sage. His name was Rav Yaakov, and he was the son of Rav Acha bar Yaakov. Well, Shadri Avu Alakameda Abaya. His father sent him to Abaya to study Torah. Kiyasa, when he came, he saw that he wasn't sharp. When he comes home, the father was discussing Torah with him. He said, he wasn't so sharp. Amarle, so he tells the son, I'm better than you. Tuvat Tezelana, you return, I'm going to go to study instead of you. Shama Abayat Kavasi. Abaya hears that Rav Acha bar Yaakov, the father, is coming. There was a demon that was in the house in the yeshiva of Abaya. It was such a dangerous demon that even if two people would be walking together, even during the day, they could still get harmed from this demon. Well, Amar Lahu, Abaya tells the students, don't give him hosting, don't give him a place to stay. Is yeah, it means a guest, but it also means the host of the guest. After the Misrachish Nisa, maybe a miracle will happen. Al comes, Bas, he sleeps, Bahu Be Rabbanan, in the house of the rabbis, which means in that place where the demon was. It appeared to him like a demon, like a serpent or a snake with 7 heads. Every time he bowed down, I guess he was davening and he was bowing. Every time he bowed down, one head fell off. So he said the following day, he said, Elias Rachash Nisa Sakintin. He told Abaya, I guess, if I didn't have a miracle, then you would have put me in danger. Because he wasn't.
Got a 1-star review on the hotel.
Yeah. There's commentaries on this, and what does it have to do with the 7? What does it have to do with the heads? What's this? Yeah.
What is it? Read commentaries.
It may have to do with the Yetzer Hara that comes to the house of the Beis Medrash. May have to do with arrogance. He's bowing down. Bowing down is the humility. Where to get 7 bows from? That's a discussion. In Shmoneh Esrei, you only bow 4 times. Maybe it was bowing some. Maybe it's 4 times plus 3 steps back.
Yaakov bowed how many times? 7?
Oh, does that what it say to bow to Esav?
Yeah.
You know what they associate this with? They associate that Yael lived with Sisera 7 times to weaken him. Right? Kara, what is the song of the Kara Shachav Kara Shachav? There it says.
She bowed. It said that Neil said that?
Daniel was saying that Yaakov bowed 7 times. Okay, Tanur Rabbanan starting a brayso. Lil Meiter V'Lisa Isha. If a person has only the funds or the ability to either study Torah or to get married, which one comes first? Actually, this doesn't have to do with funds. It has to do with what should he do. Yeah, he could either go to yeshiva or he could get married. Yilmid Torah b'achikach isha. He should study Torah first and then he gets married. If it's impossible for him without a wife, what does it mean impossible? It means he's thinking about marriage all the time. Then then he should get married first and then study Torah. Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel. Shmuel was the teacher of Rav Yehuda. The halacha is Neisei Isha v'achikach yilmid Torah. First, the person should get married and then he should study Torah. Go to Kailal. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan is in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yehuda was in Bavel. He says, Richaim betzavari v'yasik b'Torah. How's he going to do that? He's going to have a millstone on his neck, and he's going to be able to study Torah. He won't be able to study Torah. He's going to be at work every day. When is he going to be able to study? The Gemara says, Pligi halan v'halahu. There's really no machlekes. It depends which country you're from. The way Rashi explains this is that the people from Bavel would go study in Eretz Yisrael. So what they would do is they would get married. They would leave Bavel after they're married. They would go for a year or 2 after the marriage. They would go to study away. They would go away to yeshiva and study in Eretz Yisrael. So Shmuel's saying it's not a problem. Get married, and you go away to yeshiva. Come back in a year. Rabbi Kiva went for 12 years, 24 years. Rav Yochanan was saying no. Every day you're going to be home for lunch. You're going to be home for dinner. You're not going to be able to study. You have to stay here. They didn't go to Bavel to study. They stayed at home. stayed at home, then it's very hard to study at home. Okay, so that's the way it's explained over here by Rashi. Of course, there's other commentaries. Rav Chisda was telling Rav Huna, "This is fella, you got to meet him. His name is Rav Hamnuna, the Adam Gadolhu. He's a great person." Amalei, so Rav Huna says, when he comes around, bring him to me. I'll meet him. Yasa, when he comes, Chazia, he sees Leipar Sudra. He wasn't wearing a cloth over his head. It's probably comparable to like our Talesa or something, or didn't have a hat. Amalei, my time Leprisa Sudra. How come you're not wearing your hat, your head covering? Well, Amalei Delena Sivna, because I'm not married. I guess like today the talis is only, even people that wear talis, they only put it over their head after they're married, right? The talis over the head is for a married person. Actually, I think the Sfardim, even the Bachrim put it over their heads, I think. Unless they wear hats. In some places they wear a hat, they don't put it over there. Okay, whatever the case is, in those days, they covered their head. That meant that they were married. So Rav Huna turns his face, he doesn't want to look at him. I don't want to see you until you're married. Make sure of that. Rav Huna Rav Huna is following his opinion. He says, if a person's 20 years old and he's not married, all his life is in sin. What do you mean his life is in sin? His life is with thoughts of sin. Amar Rava says, Rabbi Shmuel was taught in the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, till 20 years, Hashem is sitting there and waiting. When is he going to get married? Right? Who's he going to marry? Once he reaches 20 and he's not married, he says, how do they translate that? His bones should crumble? Burst? Swell. Okay. Yeah, so there's like a point where you have to get married. That's 20. Amar Rav Chisda says, Rav Chisda says, the reason why I'm better than my friends is the Nesivna B'Shitzar, because I got married when I was 16. You have a Nesivna Bar Beisar, if I would have got married at 14, Avamina L'Satan, I would have told to the Satan, Gira Beinecha, an arrow in your eyes. In other words, I could have teased the Satan, and he wouldn't have gotten me. Because he would have been protected because he's married. Amalei Raveler of Nasan Barami. I saw some commentary over here that Yael and Pnina L'Shem Shemayim Neskavnu, that their intention. So I think Rav Chisda was the one that said something positive about the Satan. So therefore, he felt that he would be able to tease him as well, and he wouldn't get officially, you're not supposed to tease the Satan. Anyway, Amalei Raveler of Nasan Barami. Rava said to Rav Nasan Barami, Adi Yada Chalzavari Debrach, while your hand is on the neck of your son, Mishitza Vad Esrim Betarti, which is from 16 until 22. There's two commentaries what this means. Some say Mitamni Shreya Esrim Arba, some say from 18 until 24. This means either you should get him married, or it means that you should give him musar. You should train him to be a proper behavior from 16 to 22 or from 18 to 24. Ketanoi, and this follows another machlaikas, like another opinion of early sages. It says you should educate a child according to his way. The verse continues, even when he's older, he won't stray from it. Well, how old is that? What does it mean, educate a child? It says actually, educate a lad. Nar. It's a nar is a lad. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Nechemia. It's a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Very common Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia to argue about verses and medrash. It's very common. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Chadam mishitza vadesrim etante. One says that's talking about educate the child is from 16 to 22. The other one says from 18 until 24. That's the years when you can educate your child. Before that, he doesn't really understand what you're telling him, and after that, he doesn't really have to listen to you. So he's not going to listen to you. So those are the years when you can have an influence on him, from 16 to 22, or from 18 to 24. Yeah,
it's funny because those are college years.
kids get wrong ideas.
Right.
Think how we have good professors there to figure them out.
Which Rabbi Yehuda is this?
Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia is Rabbi Yehuda, the student of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lai.
But Nechemia is never mentioned.
Rabbi Nechemia is usually not in the Shas, but he's often in the Medrash. Very common in the Medrash. So here we're getting like a midrashic interpretation of this.
Oh, I see it, Rabbi Nechemia.
Yeah. Actually, in the Tosefta, I think it says that Stam Tosefta is Rabbi Nechemia. Stam Sifra is Rabbi Yehuda. Stam Tosefta is Rabbi Nechemia. There is another student of Rabbi Akiva. Stam Mishnah Rameri. This is a very interesting linguistic, ambiguous question here. Until when is a person obligated to teach a son Torah? We think that question means one thing, and the Gemara is going to switch it. You didn't get the question right. It says, well, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel answers the question. He says, Zvulun ben Dan. Just like Zvulun ben Dan. Shalim de Aviv, his grandfather taught him Mikra Mishnah Talmud Halachas V'Agadas. He taught him the Chumash, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the laws, and also the Agadata. The Gemara says, 1 second. Well, the Gemara thinks the question is, until when? Means how much Torah does he have to study? It says, Meisvei, Lamdu Mikrein Malam de Mishnah. The father's only obligated to teach his son the Chumash. He doesn't have to teach him the Mishnah. That he could go learn on his own. Amarava Mikra Torah. And Rav explains Mikra Torah. Mikra the Torah, I think that means only the Chumash itself, not even the Nevi'im and Ksuvim, not even the Tanakh, not even the Nach, according to Rashi. The Gemara says, no, you got the question wrong. It says, Kizvulun ben Dan, B'lei Kizvulun ben Dan. When we answered the question, we said that until when is a person obligated to teach his son Torah? We said, like Zvulun ben Dan. His grandfather taught him all of this Torah, a lot of Torah. We said, no. He's like Zvulun ben Dan, but not like Zvulun ben Dan. The father is only obligated to teach him the Chumash. He's not obligated to teach him all of those things. So why do you say it's like Zvulun ben Dan, that the obligation is like Zvulun ben Dan? It says, because I skipped something here. Zvulun ben Dan shlim da aviv. That's what I skipped. Zvulun ben Dan, that his grandfather taught him. Until when meant not how much Torah, means until which generation. You have to teach your son Torah. You have to teach your son or your grandson. It says Zvulun ben Dan, even a grandson you have to teach Torah. That's the obligation. But not like Zvulun ben Dan, because Zvulun ben Dan, his grandfather taught him all of this. Aviv mi mechayev is the grandfather obligated to teach his grandson. But Tanya, we have a brisa that says, we quoted this verse once before, and we said you should teach your sons, but not your daughters. Well, here it doesn't go like that. Here it says you should teach your sons, and not your grandsons. The obligation is only on your sons. What does it say? That you should let your sons and grandsons know about the giving of the revelation, the giving of the Torah. It's coming to teach you. It's coming to tell you that that if you do teach your son Torah, your obligation is only on your son, not on your grandson, not to teach your grandson. But if you do teach your son Torah, it's as if you taught all the future generations. Because if every parent just teaches their son, then we have it taken care of. You don't have to go worry about your grandson because the son will take care of his son. So you're all set. So if you teach your son, it's as if you passed it on to all future generations. That's what it means. You should teach your grandson. It means just teach your son, and it's as if you taught your grandson. So the question is, why are we saying that you have to teach Torah to your grandson? See, you don't have to teach your Torah to your grandson. This is another source. This is another source. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa. You have to teach your sons. Only know that you have to teach your sons. How do you know they have to teach your grandsons? You should make it known to your sons and your grandsons. So why do you say your sons? We meant sons, but not your daughters. It comes out there's a machlekes here if you have to teach your daughters, depending on how you want to learn this. Does your sons mean specifically your sons, not your grandsons, or does your sons mean sons and not your daughters? I'm Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, anyone that teaches his son Torah, his grandson Torah, it's as if he received the Torah from Mount Sinai. it says you should tell to your grandsons. Right next to that verse, it says the day that you stood in front of Hashem your God at Chorev, which means at Sinai. Let me just finish this thing.
They started.
Okay, let's stop right here.
No.
They start
I
Okay.
told him to app me.
What?
I told him to text
Okay.
me when they start.
Thank you. Have a good